All right, welcome back, everybody. I am so glad that you're here. I have something special for you today. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive on what is the best HD action camera for FPV in 2022. That's right. I've seen reviews of the Hero 10. I've seen reviews of the Action 2. I've even done my own video on this guy, the Insta360 Go2. But today, I'm going to sit down and we're going to go over footage of all of them. We're going to talk about stabilization. We're going to talk about user experience. We're going to talk about weight and flight dynamics with every single one of these cameras. And we're going to go over what the best camera for various use cases are. Whether you're a cinema guy, a freestyler, a racer, and just want to get a couple of hot laps down, we're going to talk about what the best camera for your needs is going to be. Hold up. This video is how long? Oh my God. When I set out to make this video, all I wanted to do was to make a review of the 4 viable action cams for FPV in 2022. That's going to be the GoPro Hero 10, the GoPro Hero 8, the DJI Action 2, and the Insta360 Go2. But I've never seen anybody compare all of the cameras side by side, going over everything from the sharpness, the resolutions available in every one, the stabilization, the low light performance, the audio, and all of the aspects all in one place. But by the time I had done all of that, I had an hour and a half of footage of me talking about these cameras. Now, I've decided to go ahead and drop this review because I feel like all of this information is valuable information. And if you're trying to choose which action camera to use in 2022, then this is the place to get that information. But if all you wanted to do was to find out a little bit about one camera or the other, well, I've got timestamps for not only which camera, but what aspects of each camera that I'm talking about that you can click on to jump around in the video. You can find those in the description below. I also want to let you guys know that I purchased all of these cameras with my own money. No one had any influence over anything that I say. These are all my opinions of each and every one of these cameras. If you do find this video helpful and it helps you make a decision about which camera to get, I ask that you please do use the affiliate links in the description below. Those really do help out this channel and help me keep making this content for you guys. You don't even have to buy the actual camera when you click on the link. If you click that link and then buy anything else from the website, that also helps this channel out. One last note before I let you guys go, and that is I made a lot of comments about the difficulty of color grading various cameras in this video. However, in the process of editing it and color grading all of these different cameras, trying to get them to match up, I've gotten a lot better at color grading myself. And so my opinions have really changed. As far as the GoPros go and the DJI Action cameras go, as long as you make a correction and then apply a LUT, you can pretty much match up any of these cameras to one another. But this is not an overall tutorial. But I do stand by the statements that I made from someone as an intermediate in terms of experience on color grading and how difficult it is to match different cameras together. Okay, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Let's get back to the video. To kick it off, over the holidays, I went with family on a vacation up to New York, and a friend of mine, Daniel, happened to have a plane. We hopped on that plane and went down and flew with Corey, Cricket FPV, Bot Grinder, and had a great time putting all of these cameras through their paces. Without any further ado, let's just dive right in and show you how these cameras perform. So this is just to give you guys a side-by-side view of how both of these cameras could potentially handle a vlog style usage. So this is just to give you guys a side-by-side view of how both of these cameras could potentially handle a vlog style usage. shot.
Hey, how's it going?
It, like the whole crew here, rolling out, hanging out with my man Cricket and Bog Grinder.
We're here, bro.
Dude, I have all the people to tell you all the thoughts on all the cameras. We got a Hero 10, we got a Hero 8, we got a Action 2, I've got the freaking Insta360 Go2. Bot Grinder hates the Action 2.
Today your shootout?
Yes, today
is
the
sorry
shootout.
for doing that. I'm so excited to be a part of it. Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
He hates DJI everything.
Yeah, it fucking sucks, dude. Insta360 Go2, not that bad, not that bad.
I've given you guys a nice sampling of all of these cameras used as B-roll and flight footage, and even a little bit of a mix of my Sony a7 III in there just for comparison's sake. Let's get into the weeds with all of the specs on these cameras, talk about what it's like to use these on a day-to-day basis, and figure out what is the best action camera for FPV in 2022. Now, the first one that we're gonna start off with is gonna be the camera that I've been using for the last couple of years, the GoPro Hero 8 Black. Let's just talk about like the history of these GoPros for a minute. Moving on from the Hero 5 session into the 6, I felt like the improvements to the image quality were worth the step up. Then the 7 got slightly bigger and more fragile, and I still felt like the image qualities was worth it. The 8 got even heavier, and I still felt like the image quality improvements were worth it. But once they went from the 8 to the 9, I just couldn't follow along anymore. The weight had gotten too out of hand, and I just couldn't do it. So I stuck with the 8 for several years. I didn't adopt the 9. I haven't adopted the 10 up to this point, but it's 2022 now, and I feel like it's time to really pop my head out of the sand, decide which camera is the best, and get back to it. So let's talk about the Hero 8 Black. Now, like I said, this is the camera that I've been using for some time. It is heavy. My quad has it's got a lot of weight. When I designed the X-Hover Stingy frame, I was designing it around a Hero 5 session and 4S batteries. Now I'm running a Hero 8 and 6S batteries that are a lot heavier, and it's just got a lot more weight, a lot more momentum. That has benefits and downsides. Some of the benefits are it's really easy to do floaty stuff. When you try to do those inverted floats over trees or sling it a long way, having all of that weight helps you carry that momentum, and it gives you a nice flow. Also, all of that weight makes it kind of like you have a little bit of throttle expo, and it's easier to maintain your altitude close to the ground and be able to make big throttle changes in order to do that. So the downsides are all of that weight is a lot of extra momentum when you crash. Basically, the energy that you carry into a crash is a factor of your speed and the weight of the aircraft, right? So the heavier the aircraft, the more energy. The faster you're going, the more energy, the more likely you are to break things. So I have been breaking a ton of parts with the Hero 8 and the 6S batteries. And you know, it's just part of FPV. In order to get the high quality footage, I've considered it to be worth it. Some of the other downsides in the flight dynamics are your thrust to weight ratio. As you increase your weight, your thrust to weight ratio gets lower and lower. And what that means is it's harder to change directions. With a lighter quad, you can be super nimble and change directions really fast. All of that momentum that we're carrying, we have to reverse the direction of it and move it in another direction. So that comes in handy when you're trying to dodge a tree last second or trying to perfectly hit that gap. It makes the craft overall more maneuverable. One more note on weight that we're going to be talking about today. I know that the heaviest to the lightest camera in this entire lineup, the difference is literally like 120 grams. Now, 120 grams may not sound like a lot, but when you're talking about a 700 gram FPV drone, all up with the HD camera and the battery and everything, 120 grams is roughly 20% of your overall weight. Now, changing the overall weight by 20% is a significant change. When you get into micros, even a couple of grams can make a significant percentage of the overall weight of the aircraft. This camera right here, the Hero 8 Black, for reference going forward, is 124 grams. So just keep that in mind as we talk about the different cameras here. Video quality. Let's talk about the video quality of the Hero 8 Black. Now, the first thing to discuss is going to be your recording formats available. This guy is capable of resolutions up to 4K, up to 60 frames per second in 4K. So at 4K and 60 frames per second, you're not going to be able to do super view. Super view is important because the wider the field of view, the more like fast moving objects you get in the periphery of the footage. That's something I like as a freestyle pilot. I want the footage to look fast. A lot of things going by really fast in that periphery makes it look fast. So super view is pretty much a must for me. Now, if you're trying to do cinematic type flying, the super view is not as necessary. We may even be doing different types of stabilization, which we'll get into later. And in which case, doing wide at 60 frames per second in 4K is perfectly acceptable. We can do 4K at 60, 2.7K at 120, 1080p at 240 frames per second. Now, all of those settings are not available in Super View. To get Super View, you can do 4K 30, 2.7K at 60 frames per second, or 1080p at 120 frames per second. Now, me personally, I pretty much only use 4K 30, and the reason for that is I like a little bit of motion blur, and a 30 frame per second video allows for a longer shutter speed, which gives more motion blur. For me, 4K 30 all day, so almost all of these cameras will do that, with the exception of the Go2, and we'll discuss that when we get there. Let's talk about video sharpness. Now, the Hero 8 Black has always been pretty good for me in terms of sharpness. If you leave the setting on high, I find that it gets a little bit over sharpened and you get some pixelation in your image. So I run mine on the medium sharpness level. I know some guys that run it on lower. If you go all the way to low, I feel like I want a little bit of sharpening, and when I'm doing the post-processing, when I leave it on medium, I feel like it has an overall good look at the end, and I don't end up sharpening it any. The images that you're going to be looking at here are straight from the camera with flat color profile, uncolor graded, no sharpening has been applied. I picked a random frame from my day out flying, and if you look into the corners, you can see that it isn't the sharpest in the corners. Near the center of the image, we have it's better, but I wouldn't say that the Hero 8 is overall a really sharp image. It's pretty good. It's a decently good image. I have been very happy with this camera overall for some time. That brings us on to color grading. Now, for color grading GoPro footage, I've always found it a little bit challenging because my vlog camera that you're looking at right here is the Sony a7 III. Very easy to color grade. I've been very happy with the footage. I do use LUTs, and trying to color match the look of the Sony camera to get GoPro footage that looks good and matches it has always been a bit of a challenge, because I can never just use the same LUTs that I use on the Sony footage and apply it over to the GoPro footage and have them look the same. GoPro's flat color profile isn't Cinelite, it's not S-Log, it's not HLG, it's not really a standard color profile. And so I can get good results with the Hero 8, but it always takes some tweaking. I will find myself with a set of colors that are working well for one scenario, and I will just copy and paste that until it quits working. But it will eventually quit working. I'll have an overcast day and it won't look right, or it'll be an extra bright day and it won't look right, or it'll be at sunset and I'll have to tweak it because the reds are just too oversaturated. So I'm always having to mess with the GoPro footage. But I can get results that I like. So what I normally do is grab a previous project and copy the settings that I've used for that GoPro and keep doing that until it quits working. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm just gonna hit Command C to copy this one, and we're gonna come back to the project I was working on and Shift Command V, and we can copy the attributes. I don't wanna copy the volume here, and we're gonna just paste that on. Now you can see it's a little bit extra orange. So I would say, it's working, but it's not, I'm gonna just kill this volume for now. It's working, but it's not great. If I wanted to tweak it a little bit more, let's see what I've done over here on this color board. I don't know why it even has that. It doesn't look like it's had anything done to it. Yeah, I would definitely have to tweak these colors a little bit more to really be happy with it. Actually, outside it looks okay. It's just when I go inside of the structure here that it starts to fall apart. Like that looks solid to me, right? We're just going. Yeah, I could totally use that. And like I said, it'll work great until it doesn't. If I was flying and it all looked like the inside of here, I would say that's too orange and I would have to make some changes. People have been color grading GoPros for a long time, and you can get LUTs that are specifically designed for GoPro footage, and they're gonna look great. The problem is when you start trying to mix cameras that I have the issue. Audio quality. Now, the audio quality on the Hero 8 Black, I feel, is fantastic. We've been on this roller coaster ride with GoPros and audio quality since I've been a part of it. When I first got into FPV, we were on the Hero 4 Silver, and the audio quality was fantastic. Moving to the Hero 5 Session, the audio sucked. I always hated the audio on the Hero 5 Session. As soon as we got to the 6, I was so happy to get away from it. I will play you a sample of the prop noise from the Hero 8 Black right now. As you can see, you can clearly hear the RPM changes. It sounds good. The wind noise that comes in over top of it is not overbearing. I feel like the audio performance of the Hero 8 Black is best in class. I really love the audio from this for prop noise in FPV freestyle footage. Up next, we're gonna talk about stabilization. Now, I know it's a dirty word to some of you FPV freestyle purists. I've been around for a long time and I use stabilization. I like it. It's the look that I prefer, and I'm gonna continue using it until it doesn't work for me. I flew for a long time without stabilization in my FPV footage, and that also works. It's just a matter of taste in my mind. FPV freestyle, you're free to do whatever you want. That being said, the Hero 8 Black's stabilization is very good. It is a little bit on the heavy-handed side, I will say, but it looks overall good. It's pleasing. It's not too heavy. Built in, it just works. You can use the Hero 8 Black footage with applications like Real Steady, Gyro Flow, and others in order to get even better stabilized footage for that cinematic look. So I would say on stabilization front, this guy is a killer. Low light performance. Let's take a look at how the Hero 8 Black holds up at nighttime. You can see that I'm flying in a very well lit environment. It is not overly dark, but if you look at our blacks here, we definitely have some noise, but it is not overbearing. It is entirely usable, but it is by no means like best in class. When you look at this scene here, I'm not even sure what is going on overall with those blues. They're getting very blobby and blown out, but it's an extreme lighting situation to say the least. Going through this, up in the corners, we have some noise in the gray sections, but I would say that it's overall usable. Let's just throw that same color grade profile onto this guy and see how it looks. I think it's gonna probably look like crap because it's nighttime, it's a totally different environment. And yes, it does look oversaturated a little bit. It's just too much for me. Yeah, those lights are just crazy. But the Hero 8 Black, solid performer at night. Not the best in class, but it's good. That brings us to the price point. Now, the price point for the Hero 8 Black has fluctuated over the course of its life from being a new camera to used to refurbished, etc. I have been able to pick these up as cheap as $250 refurbished on Amazon. However, recently the prices have increased. At the publishing of this video, prices are, I believe, $280 for a refurbished unit and $299 for a brand new one. That is an excellent price for the quality of camera that you are getting in this Hero 8 Black. $300. It's a solid option, and purchasing through Amazon, you're gonna be able to pick up an insurance for this camera so that when you crash it, all you have to do is let them know and you'll be able to send it in and get a new camera, or basically they give you a refund of your money and you have to go buy another one, but it works great. Best Buy as well is still stocking the Hero 8 Black. I believe they're pricing them at $299 as well. And Best Buy also has insurance available for this camera. So for me, having insurance on an FPV action camera is an absolute must because I will crash, I will break it, I will need a replacement. So Hero 8 Black, got it in spades, good to go. Now, the overall user experience of this camera, I didn't even think that this was a thing until I started trying out some of the newer cameras that are on the market. We have a user replaceable battery. That is actually pretty important to me these days. And we also have SD cards. Now, in my wallet at any given time, I have an SD card pack. So when I'm flying, if I run out of room on my footage, I can just grab another SD card, throw it in the camera, and be good to go. Also, the batteries. In my flight kit, I just have a huge stack of these batteries. I don't have to think about, do I need charged batteries for my HD camera or not? Because I almost always have them, and then I have a stack of empty ones at home, and when I know that my battery supply in my bag is getting low, I just charge them all up. It's a very manageable experience, and I can go with two cameras and at any time, and when I smash one, for the week or two until I get the next one, I'm probably gonna be okay. Now, if I go on a trip, I like to have 3, maybe even 4 cameras if I'm going somewhere like Europe where there's no Best Buys around. Going to California or something, I can always hop in a Best Buy. It's not a big deal. Up next is the GoPro Hero 10 Black. Now, this camera is the newest offering from GoPro. It's a freaking honkin' beast of a camera. It's huge. It has the color screen on the front of the camera. This guy is gonna come in at a whopping 152 grams. This is gonna be the heaviest camera in the lineup, and there's a reason that I have not switched over to flying the Hero 9 or 10, and it is that weight. Now, when you're flying this camera, you can definitely tell that you have a camera on your quad. If you're going from like no camera because you do some flying and you don't want to smash a camera to putting this on, it's going to be a massive change for you. Just like the Hero 8, the ways that is going to change your flight dynamics, you're gonna have a lower thrust to weight ratio. It's gonna take you longer to get to speed. It's gonna take you longer to change directions. It's gonna make the overall flight dynamics less nimble, but more flowy. You're gonna have a lot more momentum going into your lines, but you're not gonna have a ton of really sharp changes in directions. You're gonna also carry a lot more weight into your crashes and explode a lot more parts. That's just gonna be part of it. Now, when I was flying the Hero 10, I definitely felt like I was flying a bit of a bus. Now, I was still able to go out there and do a lot of the same types of flying as I've done on the Hero 8 in the past. And even like the DJI Action 2 or a lighter camera, I was able to pull off the stuff, but it took a little bit more planning ahead of time. Like I couldn't just like willy-nilly maneuver my way through it. Video quality on the GoPro Hero 10 Black. This films in 5K 60 frames per second in super view. Like what in the heck is going on? That's gonna be a ton of resolution. If you're gonna use something like Real Steady, I think that this is the camera to go to because you can film in 5K, and when Real Steady does its crop, you're still gonna be pulling out 4K images. So that resolution that is available on this oh, it's 5.3K, my bad. Yes, 5.3K at 60 in super view. That is, yep, does it. What about the 5K 4.3? Does it do, yeah. Well, 4.3 won't do super view because super view is a stretched out. They take the 4.3 and they basically stretch it into a 16:9. So super view isn't an option there ever. That makes sense. It'll do 5K 60 frames per second in super view, 5K 60 frames per second in 4.3 for your Real Steadies. And then we go down the line. So let's do in 4K, also 60. We can do 2.7K, 120 frames per second in super view. 1080 is available in 240. So this camera has a lot more frames per second with super view. It's just like one incremental step up in most ways, right? I do feel like after using this camera, the image quality improvements over the Hero 8 are significant. If your only care in the world is the quality of image, the Hero 10 is worth it. If you are doing commercial work with your FPV footage, I think the Hero 10 is worth it because of that 5.3K footage and being able to downsample. It's gonna be a much better image quality overall. Let's go look at some of the sharpness of the clips that we have on the Hero 10 Black. So this is also going to be uncolor graded at the start. We're gonna pixel peep a little bit. So sharpness near the center of the image, I feel like it's just a little bit sharper than the Hero 8 Black. I also went ahead and turned down the sharpness overall of the Hero 10 Black, anticipating the same issues. I think that would require more testing on my part to see if I can actually run it on the highest sharpness settings and after the color grade get good results. But just from prior GoPro experience, I went ahead and turned that down. Now, the area where this I think definitely stands head and shoulders above the Hero 8 is in your corner sharpness. Like we're looking at, you know, trees in the corner. They don't look extremely sharp, but that's way off in the distance here. Let's look at some trees on the Hero 8. Much blurrier in your corners. Let's find another Hero 10. Very sharp. I think that the overall edge-to-edge sharpness of the Hero 10 is substantially better than the Hero 8. That's also recording at the 5.3K. All of this was recorded at 30 frames per second. The image quality out of the Hero 10, definitely an upgrade over the Hero 8 Black. Color grading. When it comes to color grading the Hero 10, you're dealing with the same sort of thing. Flat color profile. You're gonna need LUTs or custom grades for it, and I'm probably gonna still struggle with grading it and mixing it with footage from my vlog camera, for instance. So let's just throw my typical color grade on the Hero 10 footage and see how it comes out. All right. and it's looking about like the footage from the Hero 8 Black. After applying that same settings, and I'm not gonna say that this is a good color grade, I'm doing sloppy things like multiple LUTs stacked, but I'm doing what I have with the tools that I have in order to get a look that I think is acceptable. So don't do as I say, not as I do. I'm definitely planning to change out the way that my workflow goes. In the near future. There's some definite ghosting around the trees that I'm seeing out here. Yeah, you see how it just looks like there's a halo around those trees on the blue sky. So I would have to tweak it some more in order to get good results from the Hero 10. But that's to be expected that you would have differences in cameras. Overall, I think the experience of color grading Hero 10 footage is going to be about like grading the Hero 8 and GoPros in the past. You'll be able to get to a result that you like. If you're trying to mix cameras and get the same look consistently across both of those cameras, it's going to be a bit of a difficult prospect with the GoPros. I'm sure somebody that's better at color grading than me is going to tell you, oh, it's a breeze. All you got to do is correct both of them to Rec 709, and then you can apply whatever LUT you want. And yeah, you're right, but I'm not that good. I do a little bit and get, and think, okay, that looks good enough for my channel, and I throw it at you. All right, the audio quality of the Hero 10. I'm going to say, I think they took a step backwards. It sounds muddied, and I have not been overall happy with the way that it sounds. I'm gonna play it here in the studio just so that I can like refresh my memory of how this is sounding overall, and then I'll play a clip for you guys, okay? I think that it comes down to the noise cancellation that is being applied to the camera here. It just sounds overall compressed, like they're trying to get all of that prop noise out. They see it as noise and they don't like it. Now, I've not tried flying the Hero 10 Black with the noise reductions turned off. You may be able to get solid prop noise out of it in that scenario. I really feel like I should have tried that now that I'm talking about it, but I didn't even catch that it was an issue until I started making this video here in the studio. So shoot me. I'm not happy with the audio straight out of this camera. I'm gonna have to keep tweaking with it if I'm gonna keep using this camera until I have something that I'm happy with. The stabilization on the Hero 10 Black is kind of a mixed bag. So I would say it's an improvement in that with the Real Steady Go and 5.3K, huge improvement. You're gonna be able to get 4K footage out of Real Steady Go instead of like a slightly cropped in on your 4K footage. So that's a huge uptick. The inbuilt stabilization, however, has gotten more aggressive. Like GoPro is not making cameras for FPV. Let's face it, they're making cameras for the average consumer. We are a small slice of their market. And as their stabilization has gotten more and more and more aggressive, it's gotten too much for me. There is one clip in here where I dodge a pillar and I couldn't even tell that I dodged it in the HD footage. I'm gonna have to find it and show you guys. Had to make that adjustment, go left of the pole. But yeah, look here. I had to do an aggressive maneuver in order to go around that pillar, and you can't even see it in the HD footage. It just looks like the quad jumped to the left. And that's with just the standard stabilization turned on, not boost, not anything else. So I think that if I was to go to this as my freestyle camera, I would have to get creative and either not use stabilization or like maybe try gyro flow on the lowest settings, or I don't know. But straight out of camera, it is too stabilized for my liking. But if what you're trying to do is get super sweet cinematic like shots, Hero 10 all day long. So low light performance with the Hero 10 Black. If you look here at my nighttime footage with the Hero 10 Black, you're gonna see that the noise levels that are available are much lower. We definitely have some noise in the black sky, but I would say that it is at a very manageable level. As the colors come up, you get slightly more noise. As the brightness increases in the scene, you get slightly more noise. Like this just looks freaking stunning. I'm not gonna lie. And let's throw that same color grade at it. I know that it didn't work for it before. It's definitely not gonna work for it now. Oof. Actually, that looks pretty good here. Doesn't look overly saturated. I think that would actually mix pretty decently with the with my vlog footage. And that's what I'm usually trying to do with these grades, is to get it to play nice with my vlog footage. I think the Hero 10 Black is like best in class for low light performance. Yeah. Ooh. You got a lot of motion blur on the sides, which I like that. That's why I film in the 30 frames per second, is to be able to get those slower shutter speeds. Low light performance on the Hero 10 Black. Freaking fantastic. Now, the price right now on the Hero 10 Black is $499 on Best Buy and Amazon. Now, that's a pretty freaking pricey camera. And especially when you compare it to the Hero 8 Black that is $299 at the same time, like that's nearly twice as much. This is one of the pricier cameras on the market. Depending on your use case, I do think it is worth it. If I was doing commercial work and cinematography type footage all day long, I'm getting Hero 10 Black. That's it. That's just what it is. Yeah, phenomenal. Now, durability, so far in these tests, I did not go that hard, and I don't have a ton of crashes on the Hero 10 Black. I will show you the crashes that I have. Woo-hoo-hoo! Woo. Ooh. Oh, God. I've never even done a juicy flick, Corey.
Oh, look at that head dip.
I've never done one, and it shows.
You know it's just crazy when your head.
And so far, it has survived all of those. I don't even see a scratch. Well, actually, there's one little scratch right there. But I would say expect the same durability that we've had out of the 8, the 9, etc. It's a GoPro. If you land upside down really hard, the frame is going to bend and it's going to have some level of issues. That glass, when it breaks, you can pop it out, but it's going to keep going. I keep flying these things even after the screens are busted until they're just completely not flyable. I've tried to keep this one in good order because depending on which camera I like, I'm probably going to be getting rid of several others of these cameras. And we'll talk at the end of the video which camera I'm going to be using going forward. Now, insurance options. Both Best Buy and Amazon have insurance available for this camera. If you're gonna fly an HD action camera, FPV, you need insurance. You will break it. You will be out the money if you don't have it. Don't fly these things without an insurance plan on them, and it's available on it. So good on them. Also, quick side note, don't get the GoPro insurance. They only do 2 replacements and then you're hosed. So you could do 2 replacements and then you're gonna have to sell the camera at a loss and go buy another one. In my opinion, stick with the Best Buy option and the Amazon, because you can just keep getting new cameras. And when the new camera comes out, you can trade it in and get the next camera. With GoPro, you are not gonna be able to upgrade. You're only gonna be locked into the 2 versions of the one that you have, and when it's time to get a new camera, that's it. User experience, I would say, is on the high end. I would give it a little bit higher than the Hero 8 Black because we've got that front-facing camera. We have that front-facing screen if you wanted to try to use it for some vlog footage. It's not really my cup of tea. I like fancier things, but it will perform if you have that need. Replaceable batteries, replaceable SD card. I would say overall usability and user experience, 10 out of 10. All right, so that's gonna do it for my Hero 10 Black coverage. I would say this is the best camera in class for cinematic FPV. And let's move on to the next camera on the list. The next camera on the list is gonna be the most controversial camera we have today, and that is gonna be the DJI Action 2. Now you can see mine's got a little bit of damage. The front lens has been busted out, but that's okay. It is still kicking. The screen is intact on the back, and it is still working just fine. We're gonna go over all of that as we get into the durability of this camera. Let's dive right in and go over all of the same features of this camera as compared to your GoPros and soon to be the Insta360 Go2. The first thing you're gonna notice about the Action 2 is it's a much different form factor versus the GoPro Heroes. So you notice that we have two small squares. This is your actual camera. This is a front-facing screen and backup battery. The first thing we're going to talk about with the Action 2 is the weight and the flight dynamics. So let's get a weight of this guy real quick. The Action 2 camera alone weighs in at 53 grams. If you were to pair it with the front-facing screen, it's only 117 grams, but I suspect most of you are going to want to fly with it in the lightest configuration possible, which is right at 52 grams. That is a full 100 grams lighter than your GoPro Hero 10 Black. 50 grams, 150 grams. That's a freaking huge difference, right? Now, with the Action 2, what I find is that my drone is much more nimble. It is easier to accelerate to full speed. It is easier to change directions. I have less weight when I'm crashing, so in theory, I haven't had enough crashes yet. In theory, it will be less energy carried into those crashes, and I should be breaking less equipment as well. The thing that I love the most about it is the ability to get to speed faster and to change direction quicker, meaning that it's easier to fly fast and do fast proximity flying, which is like my bread and butter. But the real question is, does it have the video quality in order to stack up against your Hero 10s, your Hero 8 Black, etc. from DJI? Now, this camera here is capable of 4K 120 frames per second. Now, at that 4K 120, the widest field of view is not available to you. To get that widest field of view, you're only going to be able to do 4K 60. It also has 2.7K. Let's see, let's just go through these here so I'm not like pulling numbers out of my butt. 2.7K at up to 120. We have 1080p at up to 240. Very, very respectable numbers in terms of resolution and frame rate. Me personally, like I said before, I primarily just shoot at 4K 30 frames per second. And I do that with the widest field of view. Now, while we're on image quality and everything, we need to talk about that field of view. This has what's known as an ultra wide setting, and it is coming in, it says it right here on the front. That comes in at 155 degree field of view. Like that's nearly 180 degrees. That is so wide. And that is another thing I am loving about this camera. One of my biggest goals in the footage that I make is I want it to be exciting. I want you to be asking yourself, is he gonna crash because he's just barely hanging on at the edge of what's possible with these drones, right? I want it to be exciting, and that wide field of view allows for the fast movement of objects exiting the frame. So when you're flying close to, say, a wall or close to the ground, you get a lot of that like fast flyby imagery, and it feels more exciting. So that wide field of view is absolute clutch on this guy. And it has all of the resolution. The fact that it does 4K 30 is enough for me. I know a lot of guys are gonna want the 4K 60, and that's fine. A lot of people may even want the 4K 120. I did some tests at 4K 120, and is the wide field of view usable? Yeah, the wide on this versus super wide, the wide is essentially like your super view from the GoPros. And so it is totally usable at 4K 120. If we start pixel peeping on the 4K image from the Action 2, you're gonna see that I don't think that it is quite as tack sharp or crisp. That might be a little bit of motion blur. I'm gonna have to find a clip where I'm going where it's not like just super fast. So the overall sharpness and image quality coming out of the Action 2, I would say is not on par with the Hero 10, but is very much competitive with the Hero 8's camera footage. That brings me to an interesting little piece here, and that is gonna be the color grading of this. Now, It is not, we have different color science in the Action 2 versus the GoPros. I would say that the footage that comes out of the Action 2 is less saturated than what you have from the GoPro. And what I have found is that if I apply a LUT that is designed for log video files, that it looks fantastic just applying that LUT. The only thing that I have to do is maybe pull up the shadows a little bit. So if we come over here to one of these that I've already color graded, the Prog LUT looks great. And I know that this LUT being designed for log should work almost the same on the footage from my Sony versus the footage from the GoPro here. So I think that I'm gonna have, so far I've been having an easier time matching the color grade between the footage of the DJI Action 2 versus my Sony vlog cam. So I'm really, really liking this. Let's just grab another log LUT. See, it already looks good. And another one. These are some of Willie's LUTs that he passed along to me. That one is 5. Let's go with this. Bam. Also, looks good. I feel like it's way easier to get a good look. Now, the one thing that I will note is just applying a LUT, what I'm seeing is the shadows are just buried. And that's something that is common when you're filming in something like S-Log. You wanna expose for the highlights. So I'm gonna be playing with this camera going forward with the exposure compensation and just bumping it up like 0.3 to a full stop and seeing if I bump up that exposure, if I can get better results when color grading. I think that I'm going to, and I think that it's gonna be really easy to get something that works for me. Now, if you go in here in this color wheels, you'll see that all I've done is bump those shadows up. I could probably even bring them up a little bit more so that when I'm dealing with Corey down here, let's see how much we can bring him up. Whew, that's a little bit much. Let's apply a different LUT. This one I've been liking a lot. Yeah, so you're able to bring these up quite a bit before you get into really bad noise. Like if you look there, it's still a pretty clean image. I've been very, very impressed with how easily I am able to color grade the footage that is coming out of the DJI Action 2. If you look at the other YouTubers that are talking about the Action 2, they're gonna say that it's not as, that you can't push the colors as far as you can on the GoPros. And while that may be true, in my experience, when working with the DJI Action 2 versus the GoPro, I'm finding it easier for me to match cameras. That's all I'm gonna say on that, all right? Up next in our list of subjects is going to be the audio. So when I first got the camera, the first thing I did was filmed a little clip of flying. And I sent it over to Steele and he was like, that looks great. I was messing around with the color grades and he was telling me that he wasn't happy with the audio out of the camera and that he was turning off the wind noise reduction. I have one flight where it's on and then the rest of the flights that I've done so far have it off. I will say that the Action 2 gets great prop noise, but the wind noise that comes in is a little bit overpowering. With the wind noise reduction on, the prop noise sounds good, and then you get at an angle where the wind is hitting that mic just right, and it does some weird compression trying to cut out that audio, that sound, and I'm not a fan of it. With the wind noise reduction turned off, you get great sounding prop noise, but when the wind does hit the mic, it is overpowering. So I would say that the Action 2 sits like in the middle in terms of audio for getting prop noise. Hero 8, top tier. Hero 10, not happy at all. The Action 2, I like it. It's pretty good, but that wind noise, if you're super sensitive to wind noise, you are gonna hear it on the Action 2. It just is what it is. Now that brings us to stabilization. You have multiple options for stabilization on the Action 2. The one that I've been using is rock steady. That's it smooths everything out, but it's not locking the horizon. There is also a horizon lock option available, but it's not available in 4K. So if you want to use horizon lock, you're going to be down to 2.7K. But that horizon lock is very much, I don't want to say very much like real steady, but it's, you know, in that vein. The other camera that we have that has a horizon lock is gonna be the Go2. And so I've got sample clips for you. This is what horizon lock footage looks like. It's very smooth, it looks great. If you're flying a smooth, slow line, you can get good results from cinematic footage. Is it as good as real steady? No, it's not. You don't have any control over it. You get what you get, and that's all you get. I did want to mess around with the new software that is open source, GyroFlow, on the Action 2. However, number one, I wasn't able to get the calibration to work. I got to figure out, I think I've made an error in my install. But I'm gonna get that worked out. Number two, I did not get a black box recording of my unstabilized flight. And number three, I don't think that they support the gyro data from the Action 2 yet. I expect that they will have support for the gyro data from the Action 2, and they'll probably have a lens profile from it in the near future. So when I get GyroFlow working with the Action 2, I will be posting up a video with some of my results from it. I think that once you have GyroFlow as an option, you're going to have, this is gonna be a viable contender to a GoPro with real steady. Let me check real quick. What is, if we did 4K in 4.3, what's the max frame rate we can do? Nope, that's 2.7, 4K, 4.3, 60 frames per second. And at wait, really? Yeah, 4K, 4.3, 60 frames per second with the ultra wide field of view. Like, holy cow, that is, that's like phenomenal. If GyroFlow does a good job on the footage from this camera, it's gonna be a solid contender against a GoPro with real steady. That's all I'm saying. So you got multiple options for stabilization in the Action 2. The entire reason that I decided to do a low light section of this video is because of this clip right here. On our flight back from Baltimore to New York with my friend Daniel, I had the Action 2 mounted to the window, and I'd already gotten some clips at night flying with the A7 III that you're looking at right now, and I was loving like the focus pull from the city lights to the instrument panel, etc. And I already had the Action 2 mounted to the window, so I figured I was just gonna hit record, see what I got as we came into land. I didn't do any special settings, and I was blown away by these results that I got out of that. After seeing those results, I wanted to go and see what kind of footage I could get at night flying with all of these cameras. So after coming home and going out for a night flying session and comparing it to the Hero 10, comparing it to the Hero 8, I'll say I was a little bit underwhelmed. It's great, but it's not as good as I had thought it was. Let me find a good frame for you guys. Come on, you can, all right. This is good enough. Do I have a no color grade applied? Let's zoom in. If you look here into the corners of the image with the blacks and the lighting, there is just more noise, I would say, than the Hero 10 has. Is it excessive noise? I wouldn't say that it's excessive. I would just say that there is more than the Hero 10, like right there. Here's the hallway section of the nighttime flying with the Action 2, and you can see the amount of noise that we have here in the ceiling as we go down the hallway, right? It's noticeable. Here is the ceiling section going down the hallway on the GoPro Hero 10. Here is the ceiling section going down the hallway on the Action 2. There's just more noise. There's no two ways about it. It may be the noise reduction going on in the Hero 10 that is to attribute for this, but just be aware you have more noise on the Action 2. Is it usable? Totally. Will I fly this camera at night? 100%. Like, I was actually blown away with how well all of the cameras do at night, because nighttime FPV flying is just not something I do very often. You have to put a beacon on your drone, which I have, by the way, FAA, and all of these other considerations. So all of the cameras are passable at night so far. We need to get into the Go2. Price point. This is where it starts to get controversial with the Action 2. The Action 2 comes in a couple of different bundles. The bundle I have here has an extra screen, right? It's a front-facing screen, battery pack, SD card holder, etc. That's gonna set you back $519. That makes it the most expensive camera in this lineup. Yeah, I don't know, there's no two ways about it. It is pricey with that in this kit. There is another option where it doesn't have the front-facing camera, it is just an additional battery, and that one is coming in at $399. So I feel like the $399 version is very competitive. The version with the touchscreen on the front-facing touchscreen, $519 is a lot for this camera. Now, both options are insurable. You can have insurance through Amazon, you can have insurance through Best Buy. The downside is the Action 2 with just the battery pack is not available in my local Best Buy. I can get it from Best Buy, but I have to special order it. So, you know, that's something to consider there. Now, in terms of durability, I was concerned, but if I know you can't touch it, but this is like a metal case for this camera. This is a heavy duty case. I have smashed the crap out of this camera. You know, just roll the crash reel.
Done flying?
I'm tumbling down the stairs as we speak. Oh, dang it! That one crash from the moon busted the screen. I have not had a single crash in which this thing quit recording, period. It has continued to record. I haven't had an issue. Now, is it gonna be killable? Yes, eventually I will destroy it. I'll break that little, when I break the protective lens on these things, I just pop it out and keep flying. Once that lens gets scratched or damaged, I will not be able to make good footage from it, and so I will return it at that point. That brings us to our final point, which is gonna be the user experience. Now, this camera has a built-in battery. It is not user replaceable. It has built-in storage. You can't just pop an SD card out. Yes, there's an SD card in the front-facing screen, and yes, you can move footage from here to that SD card. Now, previous reviewers, Bardwell included, have said it takes an obnoxious amount of time. There has been a firmware update that is much faster now. Moving 2 to 3 flights takes about 5 minutes, give or take. It's not instantaneous, but it's totally manageable. And that's not even with the fastest class card. I've got a cheaper card that's in this front-facing screen, and I'm still getting that type of transfer speed. However, there's only 32 gigabits of storage in the camera itself. That is not enough for a full day's flying time, nor is there enough battery to last all day. So you're gonna have to take the camera out of the mount, put it onto the screen, and then start transferring footage and charge it. So me personally, when I go and flying is a bit of a social engagement. So flying a few packs, then throwing the camera on the charger and dumping the footage is not a huge deal breaker. But there are days when I'm just going and making footage and I want to be going. And on those days, I will have to have multiple cameras. That's not going to be a big issue. As I've said before, I always keep multiple cameras. It's not something for me, but having 2 Action 2s for everybody else may be a deal breaker. So just keep that in mind. The other thing is, if I have 2 cameras and I break one of them, then I'm down to one going through that rotation of having to charge and offload footage. So I'm gonna definitely have that downtime. So if I'm being really serious about content creation, I may wanna have 3 in order to always have 2 that are up and running. One of my big concerns with this camera is because of the fact that it has built-in storage. There will come a time where I'm gonna kill one of these cameras and it will not power on and it will not offload footage. And then I'm going to lose footage and I am going to be upset. There's nothing worse in my book than losing footage. The risk of losing footage with the Action 2 is real. So if you have an Action 2, please do yourself a favor and dump your footage often. This goes for whether I have a Hero 10, a Hero 8, or an Action 2. It's something I'm always conscious about. If I start doing some kind of risky flying, like out over water, etc., where I think I might lose the whole setup, I'm swapping SD cards like every single flight. So if I'm doing something like that with this setup, I am going to be pulling the footage onto the SD card every single flight. Also, if I'm flying in a bando with a lot of concrete where I think there's a high risk of exploding this camera, I'm gonna be dumping footage every single flight. So you better believe that if I'm flying a hardcore bando with lots of concrete, I'm gonna need 2, maybe 3 of these cameras to keep them in rotation. So I think the user experience is the biggest shortcoming of the Action 2 in my book. The app works great. You're able to control the camera. You're able to offload footage. The color grading, the quality of image, that super wide field of view combined with the lightness of the camera make for some of the fastest footage that I have produced in years. I am so excited for this camera, but there are definite downsides with the user experience. So keep those things in mind, but I'm changing. I'll tell you right now. After this video's over, this Hero 10 is going back to Best Buy. This Hero 8 is gonna get returned to Amazon, and I'm getting myself at least one more of the Action 2 from DJI. Now, I may, if I have like a serious cinematography opportunity show up, go and pick up a Hero 10. Depending on how the performance is, I may just opt for an Action 2 with that GyroFlow software. I expect a video on that coming out because I'm definitely going to be experimenting. But the Action 2 is really the sweet spot for me. It's got the video performance that is on par with or better than a Hero 8. It has the wider field of view that gives me a faster, that makes everything look faster. It's lighter, which makes everything more maneuverable and faster. And so it really fits my style. If you're making content of just freestyle FPV for yourself or YouTube, I don't see a good reason not to be on the Action 2 unless it has to do with price or you just can't pull yourself to get 2 of them. So it really is going to come down to price and the user experience of this camera being the biggest downsides. But the upsides for me far outweigh that, and I'm going to be rocking the Action 2 going forward. I almost forgot to mention some of the coolest things about the Action 2. Freaking magnets. No, so the front screen and the camera itself connect via magnets, and it has these little clips here on the side that you just pinch to pull it off, and that's going to be how it connects to all of the accessories. It comes with several accessories out of the bag. Right here we have what is essentially your GoPro mount. It's the same 2 little prongs that GoPro has been using for years. There is also another mount that allows for, this is kind of like a little sticky suction. It's not a suction, it's just a sticky thing, kind of like Grip. That's what I use to stick it to the window of the airplane. And that screws off and you have basically a tripod mount here. It's on a ball head, so you can set whatever angle it is that's gonna work for the shot that you have. Super, super handy accessories that it comes with. And last but not least, much in the same vein as the Insta360 Go2, we have a necklace pendant. This goes on underneath your shirt. I have a lav mic on, let's try not to like blow it up. And then you stick on top of your camera, and underneath your shirt, you now have chest mount. Boom, just like that. and you can go around and get whatever chest mounted shots you want. Now, the one downside to this whole necklace thing that I wish that they had a solution for was I wish there was a way to mount it to the chest mount. Goodness, I can't drop that without it sticking to something else, where the camera would be facing down. Oh wait, maybe there is. Will that work? Let's see here. Huh. Did I just figure something out? The reason that I want to mount it facing downward is for stick cam. Let me see if that's going to work. I've been fiddling with this like all week and hadn't been able to figure out a solution. If you just flip the pendant upside down, you know what? I think that's going to work for my stick cam. Ta-da! So like pendant stick cam, nailed it. That was one of the things that I wanted to do with the Go2, and we'll talk about its accessories when we get there, and haven't been able to do, is a stick cam with just the necklace. Oh my God. A whole new reason that I love the Action 2. All right, I'm sorry for fanboying out. You know, I started out as the biggest DJI hater when the goggles released, and I have turned into the freaking biggest DJI fanboy. Sorry guys, I don't know what happened, but I love it, I love it. Okay, now, last but certainly not least in this lineup is going to be the Insta360 Go2. Now, I kind of slept on the Insta360 Go when it first came out. The big downsides for me were the image quality. The image quality of the first one was not that great. They've stepped up their game, and we'll talk about that when we get to the specs. But the first thing that you want to note is the size of this guy. So this is coming in, this is the camera itself. This is a charging case / remote control, which we'll get to on our usability. But the weight of the Go2, I think it's like 29 grams. Let's see here. Survey said, wait, no, that can't be right. That's even less. All right, hang on. There was something leaned up against the scales. Nope, 26 grams it is, all right? So 26 grams for a camera that can do 2.7K. I mean, this thing is game changer in terms of being able to get HD footage from your micros. Now, I did strap this guy to a 5-inch quad because I've never been super happy with the footage that I've gotten out of micros with it, and I wanted to see what it was like flying a 5-inch with it. And I'll tell you what it's like. It's like flying a freaking rocket ship. Flying a 5-inch with just a Go2 on it, it was really hard to maintain my altitude. You'll notice that like as I'm doing like little throttle blips, there's a lot of altitude change. Yeah, if you're want to go super light, this is certainly super light. However, the big downside to me is like the form factor. With the GoPros, it is large and the lens is off to the side, but with your TPU mounts, it's typically possible to kind of center it up and get mostly center of mass with the quad. That is another upside of the Action 2. It's right in line with the quads here. Rolls are perfectly on axis. This guy, you could either mount it vertically, so your lens is super exposed, or you mount it horizontally and your lens is offset. So that, like, if I'm being nitpicky, it's something that annoys me. But your weight on this is phenomenal. The flight dynamics are good, but we have our own downsides, and let's get to that right now. Our video resolution. Now, the resolution on this is capable of 2.7K. It'll do what, 25 frames per second, 30 frames per second, or 50 frames per second at 2.7K. And it's pretty good, but it's not the sharpest, all right? I mean, the thing is freaking 26 grams. Come on, what can you ask from it? One thing to note with the Insta360 Go is when you're recording with the Go2, you're gonna wanna record in Pro Video Mode. Now what Pro Video Mode is gonna let you do is going to let you change your aspect ratio after the fact. We can have 16:9, we can have 1:1, we can have 9:16 for TikTok, Instagram, you name it. You can change the level of stabilization that you want after the fact. All of these options are options to you. It's pretty impressive what you have access to change after the fact. So you can change your the field of view after the fact. We have ultra wide, action view, linear, narrow. And so Action View has a little bit of that look like the super view of the GoPros. The ultra wide is less stretched, and linear is, I think for my eye, linear is probably the best, even though I do like the super wide views. Just something feels off in both Action View and ultra wide, if you're asking me. Now, the sharpness in the corners here, I don't know if QuickTime is going to zoom my screen record or not. I would say that it's actually pretty good looking at this. It's not phenomenal. There's definitely a lot more pixelation that's occurring as compared to like your Hero 8s or 8. Pretty much any of the other cameras on this list are going to have a sharper overall image, but the image quality that's coming out of this freaking 27-gram camera is phenomenal. The Action 2, I don't know, is it even capable of higher frame rates? Go to 1080p, we still only get up to 50 frames per second. So like with the Pro Video, which is what you're gonna wanna shoot in, it's either that 2.7K or 1080, and we just don't get any more frames per second. So 50 frames per second is gonna be the max that you get with this guy. Color grading. You know what? I don't even have a clip here ready for you guys in the flat profile colors on it. There are 3 options of color. So we have vivid, standard, and log. Now, I have tried color grading the log footage from here, and I have just not gotten good results. In my book, if you're using the Action 2, you're probably better off just going with vivid. It looks good out of the camera, and it's very usable. You're gonna have a 30-minute clip limit time with this guy, but I've given up on any color grading of this camera. So the audio from the Insta360 Go2 is muddled prop noise. It sounds very muted with a ton of overpowering wind noise at all times. I would say that the prop noise from the Go2 is just not a usable option. If you want to have prop noise in your videos, the Go2 isn't the one to do that. The stabilization, however, is a bright point. You have multiple options, and you get to choose how you apply them after the fact. You can have stabilization off, you can have what they call flow state stabilization, and you can also have FPV stabilization. Flow state is much like the horizon lock from the DJI Action 2, and FPV stabilization is like your standard action cam stabilization, where it just smooths everything out. Now, I've had issues with the FPV stabilization of the Action 2. When using FPV stabilization with the Go2, I just see weird things happen at the horizon, and I find it distracting. So I'm not a fan of the FPV stabilization or the flow state stabilization in the Go2. If you're producing for people to be viewing on like an Instagram feed or something, like you can probably get away with Go2 footage, but for YouTube, where people may be viewing on a computer monitor or a big screen TV, I just don't think it cuts it for me in terms of stabilization. If I was going to use this camera, I would opt for no stabilization. Low light. So I also flew a flight with the Action 2 at night along with the other cameras, and let's take a look at that footage. Now, the Action 2 at night, I will say that the noise level is surprisingly low for this camera. There's definitely some noise in these images, but it clearly has some noise reduction going on, and I feel like it gets it pretty well under control. Now, on the flip side, there's some weirdness going on with the white balance, the auto white balance in this image. So if I was going to use this camera at night, I would lock down my white balance in order to get a usable result. However, just the flying the lit parking lot at night here, I would say that this footage is very usable. There's some weirdness going on with the stabilization that I'm not a fan of, but the overall image quality looks very manageable flying a lit parking lot at night. Just be aware that the white balance can become a problem at night, and it's going to be a noisier image than the other options. Now, the price point for the Go2. This camera is gonna come in at $299. Now that is a hefty price tag. That puts it right at the same price point as the Hero 8 Black. And in terms of image quality, I think it's pretty clear that the Hero 8 Black is a much superior image quality camera. However, it is like almost 100 grams heavier than the Go2. So if what you're paying for is that size and weight of the Go2. Now, the other big downside of this camera is there's no insurance option available from Amazon. You can get the insurance on this camera from Best Buy, but again, they don't stock these in the store. It's going to be a special Best Buy purchase in order to get it. But you can get a Go2 with insurance. There's also the option of the Caddx Peanut, which is kind of a recased version of the Go2. And the Peanut has the ability to pull power from your quad, so the battery life isn't going to be an issue, which we'll talk about when we get to the usability, as well as starting and stopping recording from your hand controller. So some cool functionality that can come along with the Caddx Peanut as opposed to the Insta360 Go2, which are essentially the same camera. But just things to note. Now, the durability. This camera, I am not gonna lie, it's all plastic. The whole thing powers on and records by squeezing here. I feel like that is something that is gonna break easily. I have no confidence in the durability of the case itself. However, the lenses are user replaceable. So if you smash that lens, you can replace it yourself. That is an upside, but I would not say that this camera is super durable. And mine is not insured. I think I bought it at Newbie Drone when they were brand new. And as such, the only thing that I have is Insta360 offers like a protection plan, but I don't think they even cover the like dropping it. It's just like, hey, if it dies on you. So it's the insurance on the Go2 is kind of gray for me. If I was going to do it again, I would definitely get the Best Buy version and get insurance through them. Now, in terms of user experience, this camera is freaking awesome. Battery, it recharges. Little tripod for vlogging. You can set it up on the table. It's so cute, right? You can't, I don't have a table shot here, but it'll set on the table, no problem. The fact that you can choose all the menu options right here on the remote is super handy. That being said, it's storage that's in the camera. You have to offload it in order to dump it. It's only 32 gigabytes in this version. There is a 64 gigabyte version available, but I do not have that one. And to offload it, you have to be in the case with the USB connected. The battery life is not going to last for a whole day of shooting. The SD card would not last me a whole day by any stretch of the imagination. It's like a little less than 30 minutes of record time. So in terms of usability from an FPV perspective, I think it has all the same shortcomings of the Action 2. Now, along with this super cool case that it comes with, you also get a necklace pendant that is going to allow you to use it as a chest cam. It's going to work the same way. You know, the camera magnetically attaches to the pendant and you're ready to rock. There's not going to be a way to mount it in a stick cam fashion, which I'm so excited about that with the Go2. It also has this, which can be like a little vlog selfie stick, slides out, has a sticky panel for putting it on windows and cars and things. There was another mount that goes on like a baseball cap, but I have since lost that one. And yeah, that comes with it. And they've got a couple other mounts that they offer on their website. So lots of cool accessories with this, but I think that those downsides to the user experience of non-removable SD card, non-removable and replaceable battery are gonna be the downfall and one of the hardest things to work around with the Go2. All that said, there is not another camera that is contending to be the HD camera on your micro like this one is. This is by far the best micro camera. You can fly this on something just like a larger Whoop style drone is capable of flying this guy and hitting all sorts of gaps with the, if you're flying it fairly smoothly and not being aggressive, that flow state stabilization is going to do great and opens up a lot of opportunities for some really cool shots. But is it a camera that I would put on a 5-inch? It's just not. And as such, I don't spend enough time with the micros to really justify keeping it. So I think that that one is on the chopping block for me as well. Okay, and with that, I have thoroughly gone over all of the HD action cam options that are viable in my mind for FPV in 2022. Now you might be saying, well, what about a naked GoPro? What about the blah, 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 the Runcam Orange or any other number of things? While those are options, I don't think that they really contend for the FPV freestyle market in the same way that these other cameras do, because in most cases, there's not going to be an insurance option, which I believe to be an absolute requirement if you're going to go and fly FPV with an action camera. So if you've made it this far into the video, you probably have a pretty good idea of how I feel about each one of these cameras. However, if you've jumped ahead just to the conclusion section, then this part is for you. I want to give you a rundown of my take on all of these cameras. I think that every single one of them is good in some aspect or another, but that might not be what you're looking to get out of your action camera for FPV. Now, starting right off the bat, I'm gonna start at the top tier. I think your GoPro Hero 10 is the camera to use if you are looking for that cinematic shot. If you're trying to get the best colors, the best image quality, the most stable footage, if you're trying to do real steady and get, go viral in a bowling alley, this is the camera to do it with, because it's gonna give you that 5.3K. You're gonna be able to use real steady and still get a full 4K output with it. However, it is a heavy system. It's going to make you break more stuff. It's going to make the drone less nimble. You're not going to have quite the hot rod of an FPV setup with this camera, but it is by far and away the highest image quality of any of the cameras. I'm still not a huge fan of color grading GoPro footage. I can get to a happy point eventually, but it's always, I always feel like it could be better. I'm never fully satisfied with it. If you are primarily making content for yourself and all you want to do is push the bounds of FPV, we're talking your hardcore freestyle pilot, somebody who is just, absolutely ripping the tightest proxy spot and going crazy, I think your answer is going to be the Action 2. The reason being is it is superb image quality. I think maybe slightly better than the Hero 8. You have a wider field of view, making everything going by that much faster. And the durability of this camera so far for me has been phenomenal. I know I've heard reports of a couple people breaking them on the first crash, but I think my assumption is that all of those people who were crashing right away and losing it were using this mount right here, which there's no protection on the GoPro when you mount it to the top of the quad like this. All those crashes that you saw with me, it was inside of a TPU mount on top of the drone, meaning that it has a little bit of bumper against these impacts. And I will say that the crashes that I showed in this video would have definitely killed my Hero 8. I have no doubt in my mind that that 8 would have been done for. So I think that this camera is super durable. The image quality is phenomenal. The wider field of view is outstanding. It makes everything seem faster. And the fact that it's so much lighter than what I'm used to makes the drone fly faster, more nimble, more responsive. It just turns what might be like a cruising drone into a freestyle beast. Like, I can't say enough good things about the Action 2. I'm super excited about this camera. Next on my list is going to be your Hero 8 Black. If you are someone who is on a budget and looking for the best value out of all of these, I would say get yourself one of these refurbished on Amazon, 280 bucks. You're going to be able to pick up an insurance on top of that, so when you smash it, you get a new one. The 4K on it is fantastic. You have the option to use real steady. I think that this is the best all-around camera. It's not as heavy as your Hero 10. It is super awesome footage, and it's so cheap. I think that the Hero 8 is currently the most well-rounded camera on the market. Now, if you are somebody who primarily flies micros, your whoops, your not the Cinewhoops so much, because they can really carry the GoPros or the heavier cameras like the Action 2. I'm going to be building the new Cinema from Newbie Drone here shortly, and I'm excited to put the Action 2 on top of that and see what kind of results I can get out of it. But you know, if you're into the micros, then you're gonna wanna go with the Insta360 Go2. This camera, hands down, is the lightest. You're gonna be able to get it onto the smallest of builds, which means getting it into the smallest of gaps. Now, if you have if you have the ultimate budget of all times, I would have every single one of these cameras. And there was a time where all I did was this channel, in which case I should have every single one of these cameras. Now, most of my FPV is for this channel, for fun, and I think for me, the Action 2 is gonna be where it's at. Barring some unforeseen limitation that I run into, after I hit publish on this video, I'm gonna be returning and getting rid of the Hero 10, the Hero 8, and probably selling my Action 2. So if you want an Action 2 on the cheap, hit me up. Yeah, actually, it's for sale. Make a comment, make me an offer down below. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like. Let me know in the comments what you think. What is the action camera that you are gonna be using going forward? And hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. Don't miss out on any of this other content. I've got a Cinema review coming up. I've got the Manta from Axis Flying. I'm gonna be trying out some Express LRS stuff in the future. So I've got a lot of great content coming for you guys. I hope you're enjoying it, and we will catch you next time. See ya.